all the things that would possibly or potentially get in the way of, you succeeding to the next level in real estate. How do you even dip your toe in this real estate world?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. You don't have to have money. You don't have to have credit. You have to figure out where you can add value, right? So that goes with everything. Figure out where you can add value and you'll make money.
Kurz looking clean with his whole sales team. We ain't come to talk nonsense. It's all about the process and profits until we make $1 billion from deposits. He never slacked and teach him to take action. So far from whacking, never gave up his passion. Can't catch him lacking, dapper down on his fashion. He forever stacking, running up all the cash. Real estate mastermind. Check out his book, he gave us the blueprint. Really can't hate the grind. Put in the work, no making excuses. Quitting's a waste of time. You made it this far, don't make your life useless. Pull up and taste the wine. He got the flavor, mixing the juice.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Freedom Achiever Podcast. My name is Coach David Adam Kurz, and as usual, I like to bring amazing people to the platform to bring you amazing content, stories, opinions, and everything else that we can bring to the table to not only entertain you, but to actually help you walk away with something tangible that you might be able to use in your life and business. Now, if you're enjoying this so far, I want you to hit the subscribe button wherever you are. If you're listening on YouTube, subscribe. If you're on podcast, subscribe. If you're on Google Play, subscribe. That's the only way you're going to know when we're bringing up more beneficial information for you. And speaking of beneficial information, we have a Army reservist veteran. We have the CEO of Sweet Clover Lane. We have a finance background, private banking consultant for financing companies. Wait till we tell you about the panel houses they're building, 3,000 homes projected all the way from Georgia. Spencer Thomas, thank you for doing this with me, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, I'm excited to talk to you. So our listeners can understand. Typically, when I bring somebody on the show, if I don't know them very well, we try to talk a little bit back and forth before the show so that there's some content. And while we were talking, you said some really cool stuff. And you basically started saying to me, listen, I've done a lot. Like I did the Army, I did, private banking. I rose the ranks in that. Then I became a consultant for finance companies. Then I helped launch active duty passive income. Then, I got into real estate. And your biggest aha moment was that the real wealthy people around you wasn't because they created something, right? Like Facebook is a one-off. Like there's only going to be one Zuck, right? So like the real people with money were doing it on real estate.
Yep. At least 90% of my clients. And I've seen some statistic out there that it is on average in the US, 90% of those that are affluent or millionaires, it's because of real estate. So.
Let me ask you a question. And I'm going to dig back because we're going to talk about a lot of this stuff here. But I think when we think of real estate and becoming affluent in real estate and really truly understanding, a lot of people find it difficult to get into it. They think of credit. They think of, saving X amount of money. They think of, all the things that would possibly or potentially get in the way of, you succeeding to the next level in real estate. How do you even dip your toe in this real estate world?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. You don't have to have money. You don't have to have credit. You have to figure out where you can add value, right? So that goes with everything. Figure out where you can add value and you'll make money. And so in real estate, you can start off wholesaling. You can start off being a realtor, get your real estate license and help buy or sell real estate. You can be a loan officer, right? You can get a job or a career in it, get started, get some expertise in it before you really go out and, spread your wings a bit. Or you can shadow people, do it, listen to people like yourself, right? See what they're doing, just copy them. I think the best form of flattery is copying. People have called me over the years. I have no problem jumping on a call and just say, hey, tell me where you're at, and I'll tell you how I would recommend you get started in real estate. Everybody can get started.
I think so many people are afraid to do that, right? Like call somebody who's more ahead of the game than they are, more experienced than they are, and say, hey, dude, can I just can I copy you? Like, can you just tell me what you did? And so and I think it sucks that you have to be afraid to do that because we come from a world where either somebody's going to go, no, or somebody's going to go, well, pay me, and then we could talk, or somebody's going to go, well, everything you do, I want to be a partner on because you learned from me, right? Yeah. And so, I think people just need to keep calling until they find the right person that says, sure, dude, come on over. Right.
Yeah. Or just, there's so much content online, YouTube videos all day long, that just, there's so much free information. The trick is just investing the time and energy it takes to learn it. Invest in yourself.
And knowing who to listen to, man, because some of these YouTube videos, I've seen them and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro?
Yes.
It's
easy for you and I to determine who's full of it and who's not, because we've been doing this for a while. But yeah, those out there, if you're not sure, just reach out. We're happy to help get you started. And sometimes when I'm talking to people and they're like, hey, Spence, how can I get started? It does end up in a transaction where we both make money, right? Because I figure out like they have a need that I can fill. And so, hey, it's a win-win scenario. But what I always tell people is you're never going to know until you ask, right? You're not going to know what I know or what anybody knows until you just ask and have that conversation, right? And everything that we're doing in real estate has been done for years. It's not like I have some secret sauce that nobody else knows about and nobody else can copy, or some secret formula, right? It's all the same stuff.
Isn't it? And you're right, but it almost feels like it's a secret. It almost feels like when you've never purchased an investment property. Let's go the investment route. Like, I want to be an investor. I want to own homes, and we know that the real wealth is in actually owning and holding homes and having tenants, right? That's the real wealth, because this flipping shit and the wholesale stuff and that's quick cash.
Yep.
It's not longevity. It's not, you're not gaining equity. You're not getting tax breaks. You're not, none of that stuff. As a matter of fact, you get killed on your taxes because you pick up a property and sell it 3 months later, right?
Yes,
and so when we talk about actually holding property and becoming a landlord and then doing it 2 times and 3 times and 4 times and 5, it feels like there's a secret out there. It really does.
And really, it's a process, right? It's a process that if you follow, you will be successful. It's when you are missing things in that process, right? You don't have a good property management company. You didn't do your due diligence properly, right? So don't get me wrong, like, it's not secret. It feels like it's a secret, but it's really an extensive process that takes time to learn, right? You can't just one day magically go out and make yourself a real estate millionaire, right? With no money, no assets, etc. You have to learn what other people did and build off of it. And sometimes it's one house at a time, right? Sometimes you get paired with the right people or you come from a family with some money and you can accelerate your growth. But it's understanding the process and following it each and every time is the key to success.
I if you had to give like a new investor out there, I was going to say a young investor, but the truth is that there are people out there in their 50s going, yo, Spencer, just give me a fucking clue, because I need to get out of this 9 to 5 I'm in right now. Like, I'm in the rat race. My retirement's going to be stupid. Social Security is not going to exist anymore. Like, all the et cetera, right? Like, what's the number one tip you would give somebody if they say, I just need to get started? I need my first investment property. What can I do?
Just a sec real quick. My daughter's about to play the piano for us. But so the one thing I would say to anybody that, isn't sure where to get started or how to get started is education. Every day, all day. You need to educate yourself, right? I could tell you, if you just tell me your background, your situation, and I could say, hey, I'd go buy this property if I were you. Here's how much money I put down. Here's a property management company I'd use. I could tell you that all day long. But if you don't have the base knowledge to build off of, you're going to make some mistakes, even if I hold your hand through the whole purchase process, right? Now, if I co-own it with you the whole time, that's another story. But if I'm just trying to say, hey, here's something you can do immediately, I'm going to tell you, go educate yourself first time, every time.
So you just said something really cool. You said, if I co-own it with you, this is a different story. So there's this like wild opportunity out there where somebody could go to you and say, hey, Spencer, I've got some money. Yep. Like, let's go in on something together so you can show me the way. Like, you're going to earn equity and I am going to earn education.
Yep. That's actually how Sweet Clover Lane was founded. I had a friend who said, hey, Spence, I've been watching you for a while and, you've been successful in real estate. We want to be like you. We want to, make some money as well in real estate. Can you help us? And I said, sure, But if I'm truly going to help you, it's going to be a process that I'm going to hold your hand the whole way through, and I'm going to help you own it the whole way through. And so I created the model that was the model that we created the company after, is where I find the deal, I underwrite the deal, I negotiate the deal, I get it under contract, right? I get us to closing, I help secure financing, however it's financed, and then afterwards I help actively manage it. At the whole time, they're involved with all the meetings I'm involved in. I'm CCing them on emails. I'm explaining the process, showing the underwriting guideline, like from start to finish. They're learning how I do and all my processes along with it. But I'm using their money. So it's a win-win for both of us. They get my knowledge and expertise of over 20 years of financial services and real estate, and I get to access their capital to expand my asset base as well. And so we did that with the first time with my friend and her husband, and it went so well. She called me about a month later. She's like, Spence, I think we can make a business out of this. And I said, you're exactly right. I've been thinking the same thing. I just don't have the bandwidth to do all the infrastructure it takes to set up a business, the website, the marketing material, with everything else I'm doing. And she said, well, I do. Can we partner? And I said, absolutely. So she's partnered with me. So if you go to our website, sweetcloverlane.com, you'll see Rebecca Teeples is on there. Super organized, highly efficient. And now, since October when we started it, we've already, have about 5 clients under contract. And so we've been able to help 5 separate families and still helping, I should say, under contract on a few of those properties, go from little to no real estate holdings to now one's buying 14 homes that once they're stabilized will return close to 40% cash on cash return. Another gentleman wanted more turnkey property, so he's going to be making about 12% out the gate, cash on cash, not including appreciation or tax efficiencies or anything like that. So yeah, there's Becky and myself. That picture's a few years old. You can see I got a bit of gray hair now. That's the other thing we'll do.
We got to give Becky some props over here putting it together.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. So that's also the key, is finding somebody who can help you scale. I mean, it'll take you to the next level. So, but yeah, so that's how it was created, and it's just been taken off nicely. And, that's just one of the things I've been involved in with the many plates I have in the air, as you say. And it's been exciting. It's an opportunity to really make a difference in people's lives and in the country.
I think that's really cool, man. I love the idea of someone being able to come and partner with a proven system. There are bigger companies out there that do this kind of stuff, but my thing with these bigger companies is I don't feel like your returns are good enough. And I also feel like they charge a lot for what they do. And I also feel like no one's actually educating you in the process. You just gave them money and they went and did something, and you're crossing your fingers because they're popular on social media that they're going to go do a good job with it, right? And so look, and again, I'm not disrespecting these gentlemen in any way, but you have, Grant Cardone, who has Cardone Ventures and Cardone, I don't know, Academy and Cardone this and Cardone that and whatever. And he's got the whole situation where you could invest money and he'll go out and buy these like apartment buildings and stuff like that. And he tells you read the fine print. He's like, hey, you're in this for 10 years minimum, or till we sell the product that you're invested in, and then you get your return, Mm-hmm. And so you're in it, but you're in it for a minute. You can't cash out. You can't call your partner and say, hey, dude, can we sell this property and do something different? Like, you're in it. It's a big, it's a big enterprise. Like, it's a big corporation, so it is what it is. You got the same thing with Chris Crone. He just does it with single family homes. He's trying to convince people to send him money so you can go buy single family homes. And what you have is like the attention that they've created is so phenomenal that people are like, here, take my money, right? Yeah. Like, take my money. Let's go make money together. And I'm sure they're helping people make money. I just feel they would make more money if they were doing it directly.
Yep. Yeah, that's always been my model. Is I prefer to teach people, like teach a man to fish, that expression, than just I don't like people blindly having faith in me and giving them their money. Like, it makes me nervous. I want them to know what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, all the time. I don't want any sort of possibility of anybody thinking, oh, Spencer's doing something sketchy, right? It's what I would want. Everything I do in business everything I do in life is to try to say, all right, if I were in their shoes, what would I want this to look like? And that's how I designed the Sweet Clover Lane company. It's like, hey, if I had a bunch of extra money lying around and I didn't understand real estate, I would want somebody like Spencer hold my hand through the process and helping me get involved. But I wouldn't want to just write a check.
What's like a cash investment for something like that? Because, I know people listening right now and they're like, cool, I want to do something like this. I don't care, maybe with Spencer, maybe with David, maybe with somebody else. Like, what if I come to Sweet Clover Lane and I say, hey, Jude, I want to invest in something. What does my cash up front kind of look like on that?
Sure. So what we said as a company is we have at a minimum, it's a 5,000 retainer that we hold in our account. We don't touch it, but that's just to make sure you're serious. You're ready to enter the game, right? But we haven't set a minimum investment amount overall. If you really want to, make a difference, I would say 25,000 is probably a safe number to say, all right, 20 to 25,000, you're not going to get much with that amount of money, but we can at least get you started, right? Preferably 50,000 and above, no cap on the higher end, of course. The more money we have access to, the more we can build. And we're okay diversifying the portfolio amongst multiple styles. Like we can do multifamily, storage facilities, right? Mobile home parks, assisted living. I can underwrite all of that.
So if I send you $25,000, what do you do with my money?
Well, so first off, you don't send me the 25,000. You send me the 5,000 that we hold as a retainer, right? To make sure you're serious. And then what we do is we find the deal based off of, we have a whole worksheet that you fill out that says, hey, I'm interested in these types of holdings. I'm interested in payouts this much, and I'm interested in this areas of the United States, and then anything else that you have a preference for. And so that's sort of like your shopping list. Just like when you want to buy a house, you tell your agent, hey, I want like a 3x2, et cetera. Now, we're not licensed realtors, and we're not providing financial advice. We're providing education, right? And then our consulting services are, we're going to find the transaction that you're looking for to make the returns that we are targeting. And so, for instance, one gentleman, he's like, hey, I want multifamily. As a second option, I'd look at mobile home parks, and then a third, storage facilities. So with the tools and resources that we have, I set my parameters to multifamily first. And, I've been searching for a minute for him. But then somebody in the Facebook group that I belong to with investors said, hey, I got this 8-unit, apartment building that we're selling. And I looked at the numbers. I ran it. I'm like, all right, passed his initial sniff test, got on the call with him, underwrote the full deal, and it's turnkey. So then I present it to the client, say, hey, client, here's this opportunity. Here's the data. Here's how I've analyzed it. Here's your expected returns. And would you like to proceed? And so he says, yep. I say, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to submit the LOI. We'll go into contract and so forth. And then what happens is at closing, that you're going to wire your funds for closing, and then you're going to wire our fee to us as well once we close. I don't want your money ahead of time. I don't want to sit on it other than the retainer to make sure you're serious. But now if our consulting fee is less than the retainer, then we'll actually credit you the difference back.
Gotcha. Now, are you involved in that deal, or you just did it as a consulting thing?
So for this gentleman, and he actually, we're just going under contract this week on it. He hasn't decided if he wants us to remain on as an owner with him, or if he wants to just take it on by himself. But they have the choice. So I like flexibility. I like to give my clients the choice. This guy has a bit more experience than the average person. Like, he's held storage facilities and things in the past, but hasn't really played in the multifamily space. And so he may choose to just have us turn it over to him, but we're going to help him set up the LLC, get all that done ahead of time, help get the financing set up. And then at closing, we'll turn it over to him and say, have fun. And he's welcome to call.
Cool. And if you get involved, now you start, if you're involved as a partial owner or whatever the case, you have some skin in the game, I'm assuming, right? So you put some money in on it, and then you would help with.
Sorry. If we're an owner with them, so if they say, hey, Spence, I really don't want to try to manage this by myself, we don't put any of our money in with them. It's all their money, but we only get 10% of the net profits.
Gotcha.
So we're not going to touch the gross rents or anything like that. If it doesn't make money, we don't make money.
Okay. And then you help manage it and everything else.
As an owner, but not as a property manager. That's where we got to be clear.
Right.
We still may hire a property manager in the asset.
But do you manage the property manager?
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yep.
So that's kind of what I meant to say. I know you won't be the property manager, but when you have a property manager, you'd be the point of contact to tap into them, which frees him from having to deal with that.
Yep.
By giving you 10% profit. That's pretty big.
Oh yeah. It's sometimes I think that we're not charging enough.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty big. I think it's a great deal for anybody who doesn't want to deal with the minutia of looking for properties, dealing with multiple agents, dealing in multiple states, having to work on owning the property, then filling the property up with tenants, managing it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You almost have like a partner in the situation that's responsible for operations, if you will. You're like the COO of that house.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's what I love about Becky. She's hyper organized and she's on everything. She has reports. She has Google Drives that the clients have access to. We set up the bank account for the new LLC. We'll help manage that as well, making sure they're making the deposits from the property manager. If the property manager gets out of line and we need to find a new one, we'll help get rid of them and get a new one in place. If the work needs rehab, we'll work with the GCs to get the work done. I mean, it's quite a bit amount of work that we take on.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I've been there.
Not a lot of upfront funds, but the whole plan is, and the whole purpose I set it up this way, is as we build more and more clients, right, we're going to grow our wealth by numbers. And so I didn't want to be greedy on every client we worked with.
And you help a bunch of people along the way, which is pretty sweet.
At the same time, they're growing their wealth.
And you're looking for a specific number rate of return.
Yep. We target a 16% cash on cash as our focus.
That's awesome. Now, like a lot of people, and you can't do that everywhere, by the way. Like that's really hard to do in some places. What are some of your favorite cities, states to kind of invest in?
Sure. Honestly, it's kind of all over the place. Florida, it has some good opportunities if you find the right stuff. What I found, the best way to get the returns is on the deal itself and your ability to negotiate it and what you can bring to the table to make the seller drop their price, right? So for instance, those 2 apartments we bought last year, the list price was $875. I talked them down to $750, right? And then I was able to get some financing to the client only had to put 10% down, and we got 100% of the rehab financed in on top of that, right? So we used bridge debt for that. So within 12 months to 18, we got to refinance and be out of it. But, for that little out of pocket to take down those apartments, their cash on cash is going to be close to 50% return, right? Once it's stabilized.
That's insane.
So it's huge. And so not everyone's going to hit the 50%, let's be clear. But that was a town.
Slow down, people. Don't hit the website yet. Slow down.
So, but that was in Illinois, which people are like, why are you investing in Illinois? Well, because the deal made sense and that town is coming out of gentrification. And I know there's a battery plant that's opening up that's going to bring like 30,000 jobs. There's a whole bunch of factors at play that made sense, right? And I use a variety of software, Crexy, Privy, and Deal Machine, and I'll analyze as much data as I can on the deals, right? To tell me, all right, are they growing in population or is it decreasing? What is the average profession? What is the average age? What are the average tenants per homeowners? And what are the market rents versus the current rents, right? What is the crime? All of this data is what we look at to determine, all right, if this was our money, would we buy this property, right? Knowing what we know. And that's how we approach everything.
I think that's very solid. I think most people don't have the time to do that kind of research or the tools or the fortitude for that matter. Like you've been doing this for quite some time, right? So for you, it's easy for you to sit down, maybe not easy, but understanding for you to sit down and get a concept and a grasp for everything that's happening, right? Mm-hmm. And so once you know everything that's happening, you can plug it into your worksheets that you've created that give you the right numbers and have that understanding. For a lot of people, it's like, all right, I got 100K. Where can I buy $100,000 house? And then they buy the $100,000 house, or maybe an $80,000 or $70,000, because they're like, dude, I could rent this for $1,000 a month, and that makes sense to them. And then next thing you know, they can't get it rented, or the neighborhood is shit, or nobody wants to live there, or somebody moves in and never pays rent, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and it's funny. I tell people it's almost as much work to buy one house as it is to buy an entire apartment building, right? There's a few more steps and some things to check out, but and usually it's the same amount of money. If you're paying cash for the house, I can take that same cash and buy a whole apartment complex, right? And so why not? And what I love about an apartment building, or let's say just multiple houses, is if one tenant doesn't pay me that month, I still have 9 to 15 or 20 or however many are in those that are still paying me, right? Versus
we've been telling veterans to hack the shit out of that, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you got all these veterans getting out of the military, some of them not even married yet or anything like that. We're like, dude, go find a fourplex.
Absolutely.
Go find a fourplex, live in one of the units, let the other 3 pay your mortgage.
Yep.
Stay in it for a year, maybe 2, use your VA loan, stay in there as long as you need to, stack up some cash, refi out of the VA loan, reuse the VA loan, do it again, buy another fourplex.
Yep.
Spencer, if I could turn back time, bro.
That's right. I mean, I'm preaching that forever. So one of the other plates I have in the air, right? I'm the executive vice president for First Veterans Mortgage. I specialize in all things VA loans, and I've literally taught, I don't know how many thousands, tens of thousands veterans over the years of that same strategy. But the key to that is you can't just use any lender. The big players, who I won't name because I don't want to get sued, they don't allow you, if you don't have a year of property management experience or owning rentals, to buy a fourplex. And some don't even offer to buy a multifamily VA, right?
Yep.
What people don't understand is there's lender overlays. You can be more strict than what the VA requires, just not less strict. And so you right out the gate, right? As long as you can live off base, you're an E5 or you're married or you're an officer, and you can use your VA entitlement, you can buy a multifamily. The catch is, if you don't have that year of experience, you have to sign a contract with a property management company for at least a year, and you need 6 months of reserves. You do those 2 things, you can buy a multifamily all day long. And why not? Especially if you're single or you've got a young family and your spouse doesn't mind living in there, or if you're in like California where, a single family dwelling is ridiculously expensive. I have multiple instances where these soldiers just did what I said, and now they have net worths in excess of $1 million after just a couple of years in real estate.
That's so cool, Spencer. I honestly, I wish I could turn back time. I got out of the Marine Corps in 2004. And I remember in 2004, the VA loan was like, nobody wanted you to use it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what is that? Why would you use that? Owners would say, I'm not accepting this, this military government loan. Like, they'll take an FHA loan that's a government loan, but the VA was like horrible. And then we got the bad rep for appraisals. Oh, the VA loans always come under on appraisal, and et cetera, et cetera. And over the years, those things have been fixed, But unfortunately, back then, when I got out of the Marine Corps, after serving 9 years, and at that time, I was recently divorced, and I was seeing somebody at the time. I was like in the perfect place for someone to go, hey, dude, buy a fourplex.
Yeah.
Right. Use the VA loan, buy a fourplex, and then this girl that you're seeing, move her in there with you whenever you guys decide, and, so forth and so on, and build some wealth and do it the right way. Yeah. I wish somebody would have told me that, but no one had the again, using the word fortitude, no one had the fortitude to think that way in that time. And now we're pushing that agenda because the VA fixed their bugs and their appraisers are fair and so forth and so on. And more people, more than anything, I think more people are getting educated in the VA loan system. Like, more people are truly understanding what is supposed to happen. And, now you don't have realtors out there telling sellers, no, don't accept that VA loan. It's never going to work out, Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, this still happens sometimes, but it's very rare compared to
I get pissed. Oh man, I get pissed.
Yeah.
I get pissed, especially, as a veteran. I'm like, dude, this is this person's right. Like, you'll accept somebody who just got a Hometown Heroes grant from the state of Florida to make up for whatever money they didn't have saved, but you won't do this 100% financing deal backed by the United States government. Like, why wouldn't you do that? The bank's going to do it all day long. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah. So
very odd to me.
If I run into those instances, I'm saying, let me talk to the seller's agent, because it's usually not the homeowners. It's usually the seller's agent, right? Because they experienced something went south on a VA deal and they just blame all VA deals. So a lot of times what I find VA deals that go south, it's because the lender didn't know what they were doing, right? More often than not. I've had it to where, in fact, I tell people VA appraisals are the easiest to fight out of anything compared to FHA, conventional, USDA. I can fight a VA appraisal all day long. And I have a history about 80 to 90% we win. Sometimes you can't win, and that's just the fact, right? And in those instances where we don't win, it's because the agents let a deal go under contract that was way too high, right, versus what it was worth. But I've had, like, for instance, there was one time there was a shed on the premises, and the VA appraisal said, hey, this is falling apart. It needs to be removed, right? And that was going to be about $20,000 just to remove it or something like that. And it was going to kill the deal. Well, I know about a minimum property requirement waiver. So I filed the form, which is my own Word doc I created, that says I, the veteran, take responsibility of the structure. It does not affect the safety and habitability, it's this big word for me, of the primary dwelling, right? I was Army. Big words are hard. And so once he signs that and sends it in, the VA says, all right, you're taking responsibility. So he was able to leave that structure on there, which is great because he wanted it on there because he was going to rehab it anyways and make his little shed out of it. But it saved the deal, right? There's been instances where appraisals came in too low and the realtor comps were garbage. But I still, as long as you know, all right, if it's within usually about an 8% difference of the purchase price and the appraised value, if you just file, right, that you want to fight it, chances are you're going to win. You just need to file it. Now, if it's over 10%, they have to have a second level review. But for the most part, if it's within like 8% or less, they're usually just going to give it to you. You know, so it's just stuff that lenders don't know about unless they do it.
That's the stuff people need to learn, right? That's the stuff that people need to learn. Yo, talk to me about this before we get into your family and stuff like that, because I do want to touch on that. You said something cool that I want to touch on, but this panel building, like 3,000 homes coming soon. Like, tell me about that.
Well, at a minimum, I should say. So lately, I've been looking into other verticals to invest in and to be a part of. And one thing led to another, and I got introduced to this group out of Florida. They, panel homes is not a new concept. It's been around probably almost 20 years now. The existing process is where they have what's called, it's a SIP. It's structurally integrated panel or something like that is what it stands for. But it's basically like plywood with some styrofoam in between. And then they use those for like the walls, right? Whereas this company that's coming off the ground, they are actually building the panels that have the back and the front end finishes on them. And so think of like really high-end Lego, right? Where you put this house together, it already has the plumbing, it has the, the electricity already in the panels built in ahead of time. And so they can manufacture one of these panels in the facility or, the whole house in panels. And within, let's say 2 weeks, you can assemble it on site on a foundation, like a regular slab foundation, in about 6 days or less. And this is
what about hurricane stuff and all that?
Yeah. So it's more structurally sound and resilient than stick built. These houses have a life expectancy of at least 200 years, waterproof, insect proof, because it's composite material. So if it does flood, you just hose out your house. You don't have to do the drywall. You don't have to deal with that. There's no drywall.
How do you put pictures up, Spencer?
You can still hammer through it, right? Don't get me wrong. It's not bulletproof, but it's pretty, the material's thick. So it's a game changer, right? And in certain states, they're struggling with housing issues. And one of my buddies is director of HUD in a state that I won't say, but we've talked to him about this, and we're in talks of potentially, about 3,000 plus houses that we're looking to hopefully be able to be a part of and deliver on top of anything local on top of that. So like I own a few lots that have just been sitting there that didn't make sense to sell or build at the time because cost to build has been a little cost prohibitive right now. And as of late, for a lot of us investors, where these ones from the initial numbers, which I'm still waiting for, they're actually designing a home for me right now that'll be about 2,500 square feet with an ADU above the garage that I want to put on this lot that I have near Atlanta. And based on some initial numbers, I'll be able to sell that and make a profit margin of, $200,000 to $300,000. Whereas the traditional stick built method, I'd be lucky if I cleared, $25,000 for the same size house.
So let me ask you this, because I am passionate about affordable housing.
Yep.
Does this allow that opportunity? Does this create the opportunity for affordable housing? Because I live in a city that affordable housing is like, it's quickly, if not already, become a thing of the past.
Yep. Yeah, and it does. That's, again, I'm waiting on the final numbers. This company is just, I'd say, in its infancy stage. I'm waiting on those numbers, but there's a chance, based on what I've heard so far, it can solve a lot of these affordable housing issues that we've been facing. One model that in particular they're working on is basically like a 1-by-1. It's, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom with a kitchen, full house, that's, you can build it in a way that's, relocatable, right? Put it on a trailer, you can put it on a solid foundation if you need it stationary. But the cost to build this is going to be substantially less than stick built, maybe not too substantially, but a bit less. But speed to build these is really the differentiator, if I can say that word again, big words.
Yeah.
In this model where, you think about in all the specialty crews that you need to just build one house, right? You need you guys to do your framing, your drywall, your electricity, your plumbing. With this sort of new model, you need maybe 2 guys to put this together. And these ADUs, we're ballparking maybe 6 hours to assemble them once it's all.
Wow. And so how long does it take? I'm assuming it takes a few weeks to come out of production.
Well, that's between. Yeah, once production is aligned to a specific model, they could probably print a couple of houses a day.
That's cool. And man, I'm like just thinking all kinds of stuff. Like, why aren't more cities aligning with a company like this and saying, hey, listen, I got this plot of land that I own here, and I like to put 100 homes on this thing, and I want to make them all 3 bedrooms, maybe some 2 bedrooms. You know what I mean? Yep. And create a place where we can actually have a community owned. I don't know. I wouldn't do rentals. I would just sell it, because the second you do rentals, it turns into the cities have a way of turning places into the hood, right? So like, why not just not turn it into the projects and like create a nice project that you can sell and put more money back into the city, right? Like an investor, almost. I always wonder why cities don't do more of this.
And in the past, previous companies that have tried this model, they haven't, from what I've seen in my research, there hasn't been one that had a fully finished product, right? They were just a piece of the puzzle. Like the current steps, you still needed a full roof frame and the standard roofing. This one, the roof is there. In fact, they're looking at a way to integrate solar panels into their existing roofs that are already piped into electricity for the house. So you don't have to worry about that later on. And they're controlling the supply chain from start to finish. So the biggest, I'd say, barriers of entry in the past, the supply chain issues, understanding the technology and its applications. So the gentlemen that are on the manufacturing side of this entity, brilliant gentlemen, but have backgrounds in like EPA, in structural engineering. And so it's right people, right time. And now the technology is there, and to where the infrastructure is set up for this model to succeed. But actually, I'm helping them to build out the sales side of this company. So I'll be, again, another plate, because why not? Build that out. And because I see the applications, it's going to be phenomenal. Yeah. We already have towns that as an investor, the mayor of one in particular said, we will give you land for free. We will give you tax credits and whatever else pretty much you can ask for if you guys promise to develop these lots. And so
it's funny, because that's the next thing I was going to say. If the city doesn't build it themselves, they should incentivize companies and developers and investors to do that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I think that's a huge incentive. I mean, listen, let's be real. All these big, beautiful towers that are coming up in Miami, they're all getting incentives from the government. They're all getting tax breaks and everything else, right? So why not do that for affordable housing as well? And they know it's an issue, but they're afraid to do it. They're afraid to do it because so many people have moved to, let's say, Miami or Atlanta or, Houston or Austin or, Los Angeles is a shithole now, but like the fun cities, right? And so, and where people are going, like people are leaving California, leaving New York, going to these cities, and they're coming with money. And so they're afraid to fuck it up, if you will, right? They're afraid to have an affordable building on this in the same area as multi-million-dollar condos or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And
Well,
and I get it, but we're a big enough city to figure this shit out, you know?
And that's also the thing I haven't mentioned yet. In talking with the owners of the company, there's a potential to where we can build up to 10 stories so far with the current technology, right? So if we need to build a full-on apartment complex, or, you know, one of the things I was thinking about for the homeless issues, right? Because a lot of the like when I was in Seattle, I worked for Wells Fargo up there at the time. I was in a place called Lake City. There was 3 of these, I guess, called apartment towers that they used for the homeless, right? There was forever to get in there, a huge wait, but also there's usually quite a bit of damage that was involved when they move somebody out and try to move somebody in. So there's a high turnover cost and timeline. Whereas with this material, you can kick it, you can punch it. It's not going to do anything.
It's not going to do anything. So you lived in Seattle. How long ago was that?
Oh, man. So, well, I went to Issaquah High School. We moved from Mesa, Arizona when I was 12, graduated Issaquah High School, joined the Army. Actually, I did split up. So after my junior year, came back. So, sorry, I can't talk. After my junior year, I did my basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Came back, did my senior year. Then I did my MOS school in Fort Leonard Wood again, which was 2 summers in a row, which was horrible. And then came back, served a mission for our church in the Philippines for 2 years. I speak a Filipino dialect, by the way, which is a fun little note about me. And then after I came back, I had injured both my shoulders and my ankle on my mission. And the Army was like, "You're broke. We don't want you anymore." And so after that, I was married right before getting out. And we were still in Washington, but we decided to move and try out other states and bounced around a bit. And what I love about financial services is you can work pretty much for any bank, and
for anybody, anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Once you work for one bank, other banks want you, right? So eventually I was treated like a professional, baseball player. It felt like, not as in the millions, of course. But
so this was a while ago, right? Like, was Seattle nice when you were there?
It was. Yeah, actually. So back in 95, when we first moved in, I was too young to really enjoy it. It was better. Right. And then all the way up until about 2000-ish, it started getting weird. All the people from California started moving up, and we're like, no,
you even
go
got
back.
T-shirts. Keep Seattle weird.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, my T-shirt.
Portland, Seattle, they're all got the cool T-shirt. Keep it weird,
Yeah. So my hometown, Issaquah, Washington, was the headquarters of Costco. I remember I was eating Costco hot dogs all through high school, and it was great. It was like an old farming community that was sort of just turning into more of an urban development. And now you go back, you can't even recognize it. It's just all houses, townhouses, and businesses.
That's wild. That's wild. Yeah, we went in 2020. I've been twice, but the last time we went was in 2020 during COVID, and it was like really bad shape. And from what I've heard, it's gotten worse. My wife and I both ride Harleys, and so we took a trip around the country because COVID just hit and there was nothing else to do, and everyone was afraid to go outside, so we stayed outside for 6 weeks. And we hit Seattle. And it was unfortunate because I was really looking forward to being there. My wife was looking forward to being back. She had lived there for a little bit, and it just wasn't what she remembered or I expected. It was very different. We went to go get Starbucks, obviously, right at the original Starbucks at Pike's Place. Pike's Place was closed down, by the way, because of COVID, obviously. We went to the Starbucks. We got some coffee from the original. And then down the street, there's that mac and cheese place. Mm-hmm. And so we went to the mac and cheese place and we got some mac and cheese and we went to go sit at the park. And we were halfway through our meal. We had to roll out because the homeless people on this side were arguing with the homeless people on this side. And it looked like they were about to break out into a fight. And I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Like, I looked at my wife and I was like, yeah, we don't need to be here.
No,
we don't need to be here.
Yeah, we used to love down there. Pike's Place, the fish market. It was great. Yeah.
And I'm talking about the park right next to the fish market, which is right there on the water. Like, we sat in the grass. We were sitting there looking at the ocean and, enjoying our mac and cheese and whatever we got from Starbucks, Yeah. And it's unfortunate. And I was like, we visited a friend. She lives in one of the little islands off that you got to take the ferry to, And then I was like, let's roll out. And then I didn't get to see Portland. I wanted to see Portland. There's the mountain there that my wife wanted to take me to. She really likes Portland. We didn't get to do Portland because the homelessness was out of control and the riots were out of control at that time. I don't know if you remember 2020 riots.
Yeah.
And so we ended up staying with a friend and we ended up driving right through Portland, you know?
Yeah.
So we didn't get to see it. It was pretty
Didn't get the
pretty
voodoo
sad.
donuts?
What's that?
You didn't even get to stop for the voodoo donuts?
Nothing, man. Nothing. I didn't, like, literally we left. Our friend lives north of Portland and we just kept going all the way to San Francisco.
Wow.
And then we got to San Fran. We stayed there for a day. And then we just kept going. We were like, let's get the hell out of this Northwest side, you know?
Yeah.
And so we ended up riding a couple days and we got to Huntington Beach, California, which is south of like LA and Malibu and all that.
Yeah.
And Huntington Beach was like unaware that COVID was happening.
Yeah.
Every restaurant was open. Every store was open. The barbershop was open. I finally got a haircut there. Like they were completely unaware that like the rest of the world had shut down. They had no care in the world. The beaches were wide open, everything. Like Governor of California was going nuts and they were like, meh, whatever. You know?
Yeah. I'm guessing they may have been a majority Republican.
More than likely. Republicans and wealthy people who are like, yeah, we're not doing this shit. No. You know?
Well,
because Huntington Beach is a pretty wealthy neighborhood, you know?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I've been there. It's beautiful. It's funny when the CDC released their data on COVID, me with the, you know, being the numbers guy, I analyzed it. I was like, wait a minute. According to their own data, there was like a 0.02% chance I was going to get it. And then another 0.04% chance I would die from it without even factoring out comorbidity issues, right? Because a lot of people that were dying had like heart attacks. They were
secondary stuff.
Yeah, right. They had, you know, lung issues. And it's like, yeah, what are we worried about? And that's what I liked about Georgia is, yeah, we shut down for a little bit, but then we're like, no, this is stupid. Like,
yeah, Florida too. I mean, we had DeSantis, you know, like, you know, it was like we were shut down for a little bit, and then finally it was like, what are we doing here? We're killing small business. You know, like we're killing small business. We got to let small business operate. You know,
and I get some people actually died from COVID. I'm not discrediting that, right?
No, I would never discredit that. You're right.
And so, but the data wasn't as scary as people made it out to be. Right.
I personally think there's a bigger plan to that, but then I get into conspiracy theories and all this shit, and that's probably,
I'll tell you, I had COVID, and I was like, this is not normal. This does not feel like a natural.
I had it too, actually. I had it before it was announced. I had it in December of 2019. During the Christmas break, we had gone up to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, with the family, and I got really, really sick.
Yeah.
And it was like no sick I'd ever felt before, lost taste, lost smell, lost scent, all that stuff, you know? And and funny story, we get snowed in, electricity goes out, and now we're in this house in Pigeon Forge in this cabin with no electricity and no water, with a family of like, I think there's 12 of us in the house, me sick as a dog. And it's like 7 degrees in the house. We couldn't even keep a fire going because the wood was frozen with ice on it.
Wow.
Yeah, that was tough. I got COVID before I knew I had COVID, before I knew what it was.
What was crazy was the brain fog. Did you have that? Like,
no, not too much.
So for me, after the symptoms, so first of all, I felt like I got hit by a truck like the first day. And then after that, it sort of cleared up. But for like a week or two, like my brain felt literally slower than normal. Like I just call it brain fog. And I guess some people have it, some people don't. But I'm like, this is the weirdest thing ever. Like,
yeah, I didn't have it. I got smell back. I got taste back. I got all that stuff back. You know, I guess I didn't get the second version or whatever. What's that?
I said it could have been maybe because you're a Marine and you guys don't get affected as much.
You know, it's just this thing. It happens right out of boot camp. It's fucking nuts.
Right. It's the crayons that they give you. It prevents your brain from being able
to. It mix it in with the saltpeter, right?
Speaking of basic, I had to have the silver bullet twice. We cut out for a sec. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in basic.
We got it going in, And then all of us got bronchitis within like the first few weeks, and they made us all line up and get it again.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And ever since basic training, I've had bronchitis every single year of my life. But before that, I never had it. And I never filed a claim for a while until I started really getting in depth and building out the different veteran companies. And all the guys are like, no, Spence, you need to file because
you need to file a claim. 100%.
Then I filed, but they're like, oh, we don't even have record you went to basic. We got record you went to your MOS school, but we don't have record you went to basic or that you were hospitalized. Because I went to sick bay for 2 days, and then I was like, I'm not going to be a restart.
How could they not have that record?
I don't know. It's not like I went back in the Stone Age. It was like 2000. Like computers existed.
How could they not have that record? And the funny part is, they're like, we have record that you went to MOS school. So what? Did I just skip basic? What am I special? You know what I mean? Like
I just showed up one day and like, hey guys, I'm gonna go to MS school.
I picked up this uniform at Walmart. Like, can I just join you guys?
Sounds fun. Chemical operations specialist. Why not?
Hey, so before we jump off, you got 2 girls, 14, 11.
Yep.
And you said that your girls have been to 13 countries.
13
countries.
So
talk to me about the importance of moving your family around like that.
Oh man. So for us, it's work hard, play hard, right? I would rather die with not a penny to my name and have a life full of experience, is what I tell my kids. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not just living paycheck to paycheck by any means, but it's important that, especially when the kids are young, we try to travel as much as we can. Like last December, we were was it December or November? I can't remember. We were in Portugal. That summer, we were in Hawaii. The February before, we were in Italy. And yeah, these aren't cheap vacations, but you know what? I work hard. I try to make a good amount of money so we can have fun. And now we're going to Costa Rica in a couple of weeks. And that'll be the 14th country. And so
awesome. It's a lot of fun, by the way. You got to go whitewater rafting. Got to.
No, I don't think so. I'm more of a let's not die kind of guy.
But it's easy whitewater rafting.
Oh, okay.
It is. They're big, things, and you and the whole family will be in there, and they got the guide, of course, and they it's a bunch of little boats because a bunch of people are doing it, and you'll get like a little bit of rough space, and then it'll be like cool sailing for a while, and then they have they had this one spot where we stopped and everybody could just jump off and swim around for a little while, and then you jump back in the boat and you go again. But the whitewater rafting was a lot of fun. Now, the scarier part was actually being in the bus and going up the side of the mountain, getting to where you have to launch from.
No. I don't even like standing in tall buildings. Like, no. There's Army for a reason, staying on the ground.
If you get on the bus, sit on the mountain side, not the ledge side.
Like, just talking about it makes me anxious. Like, no.
My wife and I, we were looking out the window, and you didn't see road. You just saw the fall.
Yeah, I experienced that in the Philippines. I'm traumatized. And what's crazy is they don't go the speed limit if there is one. They're going as fast as they can.
There isn't one.
Let's see how fast we can go and not die is their whole model.
Yes, there isn't one. I remember I went to Mexico and I did a ATV tequila tour, which I thought was really interesting because basically all these ATVs roll out together and you go up these mountains. And as you're going up the mountains, you're stopping at different distilleries and tasting tequila. And so by the time you get to the top, you're like, 7-8 shots of tequila in. Yeah. And then you got to drive the ATV back down the mountain. And I was like, how has no one died doing this?
It's crazy. I mean, if they were selling like maybe some life insurance, or even that, they'd be at a loss. I don't know. Model. Like,
man, how has no one died doing this? Maybe people did die doing it. We just don't know that. We don't know.
They're just people who didn't come back from vacation. That's all they tell us.
Well, I'm trying to. My kids are really into anime, and so I'm trying to get my girls to this year. Hopefully, this year, knock on wood, maybe fall break or something like that. We're going to take 10 days and we're going to go to Japan.
Nice.
And so I want to take them into. I want to fly into Tokyo, spent some time there. There's a town that like actually is like an anime town. It's like known apparently, you know, and so they want to go to this town. And then from there, take them to Osaka and take them to Hiroshima, do some museums, do some tours, things like that, you know, take them out to eat all the great food, and then probably fly back from Hiroshima and let them experience the bullet train and things like that. You know what I mean? Like just really cool life experiences. And the next time they watch an anime, it would be like a completely different story for them. That's the way I feel about it. Like it would be a completely different story. They'd have this whole understanding, like I've done that, I've been there. This part of this anime makes sense to me, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm really pumped to take them to see that and open their eyes to that, you know? They've traveled quite well. They're well traveled, to say the least.
Right. Well, it's good for kids to travel because then they realize there's other countries, there's different ways people are living, and you know, for all the people that complain about America, it's not as bad as, you know, some other countries.
Yeah. Well, dude, Spencer, thank you so much for spending some time with me today, man. This is, I think, it was a great conversation. And look, we're almost at like 55 minutes on this conversation, which is really, really cool because we really dug in on investment in property and how to get started and different avenues and approaches to being able to do it alone, do it with a partner, do it with a company like Sweet Clover Lane, you know, be able to, you know, understand veterans. We really dug into a lot of different topics that I know people are going to pull some information from this and they're going to win with it, you know?
Outstanding. That's what I like to hear.
All right. Thank you again, man. Guys, if you are still listening to this podcast, that means you enjoyed it. So hit the subscribe button anywhere you're watching this, and it gets even better. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. Do me those favors. Let's get this information out there. Let's help people build generational wealth for themselves, and so that they could be not rich, but wealthy. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you with the next podcast.
Thanks for having me. See you later.